Mr. Speaker, we are at a critical moment, a tipping point, to quote the Deputy Chief Medical Officer. We have all seen the clear and alarming trend in infection rates. The virus is now spreading in all areas of the United Kingdom, though much faster in some areas than others. And as the Prime Minister said, and the Deputy Chief Medical Officer said, there are now more patients in hospital with COVID today than when the country went into lockdown on the 23rd of March, and deaths are rising. Nobody should be under any illusion about where this is heading or of the need for decisive action. The question today is whether the restrictions announced by the Prime Minister can bring the country back from the brink, whether they can regain control of the virus and provide the support and confidence that local businesses and communities need. That's how high the stakes now are. So we will consider the package. We will look at the small print of the local mayors, councillors and leaders in the areas most affected. And we'll scrutinise the economic package that sits alongside them. But I have to say to the Prime Minister, I'm now deeply sceptical that the government has actually got a plan to get control of this virus, to protect jobs or regain public trust. We've tried to give the Prime Minister the benefit of the doubt, but it increasingly feels like the Prime Minister is several steps behind the curve and running to catch up with a virus that he has lost control of long ago. It was less than 3 weeks ago, 22nd of September, that the Prime Minister came to this House to announce new restrictions. He said then that the measures he was introducing then would, I quote, curb the number of daily infections, that those restrictions were carefully judged to achieve the maximum reduction in the R number. That hasn't happened. Those measures have not worked. We wouldn't be here today if they had. And there's a pattern here. On the 1st of July, the Prime Minister told us of his new whack-a-mole strategy to control local outbreaks. 20 areas have now been in restrictions for over 2 months. 19 have seen their infection rates rise, some by very large amounts. So those measures have not worked either. In May, the Prime Minister boasted of a world-beating track and trace system. He told us it would be a real game changer in the fight against the virus. We've debated this many times since, but last week the figures were the worst yet. The Prime Minister promised 100% of test results would be turned around in 24 hours. The latest figure, Mr. Speaker, for in-person testing is just 24% being turned around in that period. This serial failure, combined with the repeated leaks and briefing to the newspapers in the last few days, have fatally eroded public confidence just when we need it most. So can the Prime Minister tell us, what reassurance can he give us that these measures today will be sufficient to get the virus under control? Will he finally accept that trace and isolate should be handed over to local authorities, as we've been saying for months? Will he accept that the support packages announced by the Chancellor simply won't work for many thousands of people, particularly those on the minimum wage? Mr. Speaker, there's huge anger about this in areas under lockdown, and there's a huge gap in the government's plan. And will he confirm that mayors, local leaders, council leaders and others will be fully involved in any future decisions? Finally, I want to say this to the Prime Minister. I know that there will be some on his side who will oppose further restrictions. There will be those that will look at the data and tell him to disregard it, or say the cost of acting now is too high. I want to be clear. The worst thing the Prime Minister can do is not act quickly and decisively enough, or to keep coming back to this House every couple of weeks with a new plan that doesn't work and isn't up to the scale of the task. We need to break that cycle, finally get on top of the virus, rebuild public confidence. I hope the measures announced today will do so, but the House and the country will be deeply sceptical whether they can.